everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I am G from View Storefront, Chief Revenue Officer. We are the front-end as a service solution, very much focusing on customer experience and enabling composable commerce to come together on the front end. With me here, I have Nilay and Mark, and I will let you introduce yourself, maybe starting with Nilay.
Sure, thank you. Myself Nilay, one of the co-founders at Klevu. That's it.
Mark Reisler. I head up strategy and alliances for Pivotree, which we dub a frictionless commerce company focused on the development of finding, buying, and getting through the commerce value chain lifecycle for our clients.
Great. So let's start this off with some juicy, big questions, right? So from the macroeconomic perspective, right, what are the trends that we should be expecting and seeing in the next few years, and how will that affect the e-commerce business?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big, juicy question, right? There's a bunch of ways that we could take this, and I might coin a term here called Maconomics for a second. But the Macroeconomics behind it, like we're in the great unbundling revolution that's happening with monolithic technologies getting broken apart and strangled out, et cetera. And when we combine that with the macroeconomic forces that are happening right now, we're starting to ask ourselves the question at the executive levels around, how does unbundling of these monoliths work with reverse logistics, which is a huge problem, and recycling of products, which is another huge problem. I was in a boardroom with one of our clients, and they were talking about sustainability. And the idea of we sold a piece of clothing, right? And now that piece of clothing is going into the waste, right? And I think that at a mock level, when we're unbundling these tech, we could start recycling those clothing, right? We have the tools and the APIs in place in order to figure out how to bring the reverse logistics back into the warehouse, how to take it from the warehouse and ultimately clean, redo the clothes, et cetera, and then resell it again on a marketplace. So the availability is there as a macro trend of the unbundling combined with sustainability, combined with reverse logistics. The other trend that I just wanted to quickly mention here was the idea of focusing in on supply chain in particular, right? You could read any article you want. We all know the supply chain woes, the geopolitical instability is there, right? But as we move forward over the next 5 to 10 years, again, taking it from the great unbundling perspective, I personally believe that this trend of being more micro-fulfillment in particular is going to really start popping up. You're going to start seeing, we have a huge OMS and WMS practice at Pivotree. And you're going to start, what we're noticing is these dark stores, these micro-fulfillment centers are starting to populate in order to get that last mile delivery into place a lot sooner. A lot, I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I could go on for days
about
this.
A lot to process there. But there is, that is, there is an opportunity, right? But it can kind of get complex, right? And we see this, we talked a little bit earlier in the panel about all these solutions working together and coming together, but it is sometimes a complex picture, right? And we're all here on the composable side and MACH trying to kind of simplify that. So if we kind of look at maybe what are some of the ways, right? So when we look at making things easier and simplifying as much as possible, right? How have you, Nilay, see kind of the user experience, right, affecting, just customer experience and loyalty and sales and so on?
Yeah, thank you. And I think we gonna see a lot of disruptions in this market. Geographies are actually broken now, right? Every digital playground is your kind of, and it means anybody from anywhere could actually, disrupt. And it would be somewhere we not probably are aware of. Right now it's happening somewhere, we don't know. So the technology, and I think, if we kind of look at the history, this is, MACH is a great new kind of way we are proceeding into, but there were other ways in the past that also came. for a reason. So I think ultimately from the retail and the tech perspective, at least we have learned that focusing on the user, like one of our friends, Jens, yesterday was also talking from Sito, it's very important, I think. So how we define it is at the point of use. At the point of use, what's happening? Because at the point of use, and it means it could be a developer at the point of use, it could be an e-com manager, merchandiser. What is that point of use delivery? And at that point, the user who is using your system or whatever it is, can he or she actually accomplish what needs to be accomplished without depending on someone else? I think that's the area, and it's not about providing a lot of, let's say, analytics. There are a lot of systems comes with loads of data and intelligence analytics. That's great, but can your user use it? I think so. That product-led user experience actually ultimately defines your customer experience as well. So and the systems that are really good at providing that point of use, high quality delivery, will continue to kind of flourish. And I think again, MACH and Composable will give a lot of opportunities for such applications to emerge. So it's looking good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting because, of course, one of the benefits of Composable is a very specific solution that's really focused on solving one problem for most part. And that, I think, is where you have the depth to actually work on that user experience, right? And as opposed to when you're trying to blanket so many different solutions, I do think that that user experience starts to suffer, right?
Yeah.
It's just that's not the focus of design. That's not the focus of how. And what we see is that quicker adoption, right? And we see simplicity in it, and we get that feedback. And
yeah, I wanted to just comment on something that Nilay said there about starting with the user. It's typical innovation frameworks start with customer desire, right? If your customer is in need or has a pain, how do we solve for that particular pain? But where you were going with this, in my interpretation, was we're actually on the path of being able to create new business models at the same time, new revenue streams, different channel optimizations that we could do. You're selling in a current e-commerce channel through a website, right? We're at the point of, if we combine user experience, agility, and now the idea behind Macroeconomics, I'm going to say it again, then we're at the stage now where we could start saying, okay, we can now exploit certain channels that we've never been able to exploit before, right? And diversify revenue from one channel to another channel. And we could start toying around and playing with potentially new business models we've never explored before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that actually, you brought me to a really good question next, so thank you for that. And actually really is, so things are moving fast, customers moving fast, etc. How do companies stay agile through all of this, right? How do companies stay agile enough to move at the speed of a customer, right? To remain relevant?
Yeah, I mean, I speak to hundreds of companies a year, right? And this question always comes up. How do we become more agile? How do we stay more relevant, et cetera, right? In this pseudo-recessionary period that we're in, it's the boardroom conversation that's happening. Depends who you ask, yeah, for sure. But I go back to my roots in particular, and I grew up in my career through innovation, through startups, and through marketing automation and a variety of other related commerce systems. And it's all about innovation to me, right? It's all about how do we co-innovate together with tech partners like Vue Storefront and Klevu, SI partners like ourselves, and how do we partner and to co-innovate and ultimately build new ways of delivering unique experiences that our customers demand. Wow, that was a mouthful of a sentence. But that's break down those experiences. Go out and talk to your customers. See what they actually want to hear from you, right? Start mapping out those patterns across time and realize that, hey, my second largest segment of my user base wants something that I don't offer, right? Maybe it's time to invest in there. Maybe it's time to lean into that particular channel.
Yeah, I'll just add to kind of from two perspectives, that agility that you talked about. I think from the technical side, especially in the composable commerce, the quality of your code is so very important. Like your quality of the APIs that you are actually putting in the market, like the SIs, when they get something, and if like we as a vendor, let's say, provide something, and you as SI, your developer sees the kind of the implementation, you should able to make sense of it.
Right.
Otherwise, if it doesn't, that's where your agility, is going in the other way, other direction. And the second aspect, actually, I listened to the previous panel, and so very